Hello and welcome to the Voice of TOD. I'm Tom and today we're going to talk about my favourite TV show of all time. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's Firefly. In this episode we're going to take a look at objects in space. The series finale and arguably the perfect place to finish the first and sadly only season. It's been a hell of a roller coaster, but we still have one review left in this series. Serenity, the film that followed a few years after the series, and I'm really excited to watch it again. It's been about 6 months since I last watched it, and to be honest, I think I'm getting withdrawal symptoms, even with watching Firefly in between. But as with the previous reviews in this series, this one will be filled with spoilers, and if at this point you haven't seen Firefly but you keep watching these, all I can say is thank you, but you know what you should be doing. But with that, let's talk about objects in space. We're going to take a look at the final outing for Serenity, our crew, and this wonderful sci-fi show. There's been a subtle increase in the use of CGI over the last few episodes in the show. Now, 2002, when this was made, CGI was still very new. And the way that they were doing it here and green screen, and that's all down to the innovation of a certain George Lucas and the prequel trilogy, which some of you may have heard of. But it started to become cheaper and easier to do, and it seeped its way into TV, which is why things like this are possible. From making Serenity look a little bit more detailed in the space shots to planets looking a little bit better, or the laser pistol bolts that we saw in last episode. But this intro really plays into that idea. The shot runs through space, over Serenity and in through the ship, through wires, conduit and into River's room. We get a cacophony of voices as River is woken up. I like this intro, especially with how this episode unfolds. It really works. By this point we all get the idea that there's something off with River. From being a guinea pig for the Alliance crazies to cut on, 3 killing shots without a clear look during Mal's rescue from Niska, slashing Jane with a cleaver because, wacky fun. But you'd say that she's not really normal. And as she wakes up from the voices, she wanders through the ship, giving us a chance to catch up on the other members of the crew. Kaylee and Simon are cozied up, Simon recanting a elaborate tale of his graduation and being naked, much to Kaylee's enjoyment, as she laughs with him. In all the laughter, River picks up on each of their thoughts, the negative stuff, and she takes it very personally. As we know, she feels things strongly since her abuse, I guess, at the hands of the Alliance. And these thoughts upset her, so she moves on, leaving them to enjoy their moment. In the galley, as Jane is making some sort of breakfast, it looks like pancakes and God knows whatever else, and talking to Buck about his religious order and sex. I do have to admit, St. Jane has a nice ring to it. Not for his reasonings, but Anyway, the thoughts creep in again. The negative stuff. So River, uncomfortable, moves through the galley, onto the gangway to the bridge where she sees Wash and Zoe using the quiet time to play tonsil tennis. River picks up on the intense passion between them. Again, it makes her uncomfortable, so she moves towards the cargo hold. And Mal and Inara. Not much time has passed since last week's heartbreaker of an episode, and the effects of Inara's choice are still being felt. Inara hasn't told the crew that she's leaving, something that Mal still isn't happy with, and River picks up on this. It's more what isn't said. With Inara, she just wants to be treated like a big girl. And Mal's inner voice is choked up, emotional. Our captain is in turmoil. And then we hear waves as River continues to move through into the cargo bay proper and stands on a broken branch. A lovely wide shot of river in the empty cargo bay, broken branches and dried leaves all around. She picks up the branch that she stood on. The camera pans to Simon, frantically trying to calm River down, Kaylee behind him looking scared as reality sets in. River isn't holding a broken branch. She's holding one of Jane's pistols. It's pointed at Simon and she's completely unaware. Mal rushes down from his elevated position and grabs the gun. It's loaded and the safety is off. Kaylee, now terrified, looks at River as she retreats. Memories of Mal's rescue and River's ease of killing fresh in her mind. Now we have a big problem, and as Mal chastises Simon, questioning why the drugs won't work, and he's clearly worried for his crew, and the desperate times are about to get a whole lot more desperate. After all, they are very much alone out here. But that's not strictly true, as a single man ship flies into view off the back of Serenity. So this episode is more river centric, but again, as with some other episodes in this, certain members of the crew take a backseat. But it's time to dive into the biggest mystery of the show and try and work out exactly what's going on with River. On the bridge, Wash has picked up something on the sensors, but it's probably nothing. He and Zoe are discussing River and what's just happened as Mal is tearing a few chunks off Jane for not locking his guns up. Jane protests, but Mal isn't in the mood and quickly reminds Jane of his recent transgression. Jane does back down a little bit, still not willing to take the wrath of Mal for this. But it's here that Kaylee comes onto the bridge and she has something that she wants to share. Now, that lone ship that was tailing Serenity, it's a bounty hunter of some repute. Depending on who you ask, of course. He's here for River alive. Simon too, if the chance arises, but it's more River that he's focused on. And that girl has a hefty bounty. And he makes his way onto the hull of Serenity to scout out his target. Now it's time for a crew meeting, and I love it when the crew get around the table. But this is a different kind of discussion. Everyone's here but River, and it's clear that she's the subject. Kaylee tells everyone about the events of Mal's rescue, which Simon doesn't really want to accept, despite Jane constantly reminding everybody that River cut him and nobody cares. This conversation is generally over Jane's head anyway. But we get to a point where Mal hits the nail on the head. The girl knows things she shouldn't, things she couldn't. Mal thinks she's a reader, a psychic, something that Buck seems to agree on. So the question evolves. Is she a psychic or an assassin? Mal isn't going to make any decisions without properly thinking it over. And everybody retires to their quarters, or their bunks, leaving our bounty hunter to sneak in through the airlock and scout the ship out. Mal, either disturbed by the noise or just generally walking around, hasn't settled in yet, bumps into our bounty hunter, and after a little scuffle, Mal is knocked out quite quickly and lowered, unconscious, into his own bunk as the bounty hunter seals everybody in. It seems like there's no need for the innocents to get in his way. Now it's on to Kaylee. She's messing around with the engine, trying to ease her troubled mind. The bounty hunter comes on very strong, using fear and the threat of violence and sexual assault to get what he needs from her, and leaving her awake but tied up, he moves on to River and Simon's room. On the way, we find Buck coming out of the washroom, and he's very quickly knocked out by our bounty hunter with a flying dropkick to the head. Simon's woken by this ruckus and goes to check on River. She isn't in her bed or her room, but the bounty hunter is. Now, over this series, Simon has gone from pompous rich boy, probably the bad guy, to being mollycoddled by the group, to standing up for himself against Jane's old buddy Stitch in Jane's town, and then masterminding the great theft of Ariel. Quite the arc there, but he's not done yet. And face to face with a bounty hunter, Simon would rather die standing. He's gotten brave over the last 14 episodes. That's not really what the bounty hunter wants. He's as much a philosopher as a killer, and while giving Simon the rundown, he basically just wants River alive and then he'll go on his merry way. He does use the threat of violence against Kaylee to persuade Simon into helping him, but our bounty hunter likes the sound of his own super smooth voice, and honestly I can't blame him. Our bounty hunter is called Early, played wonderfully by Richard Brooks, and he's got a little bit of a Star-Lord meets Boba Fett kind of thing about him. But now it's time to find River. She isn't anywhere obvious, so Early takes Simon through the ship. They pass Buck, still unconscious, and Simon checks his pulse, makes a quip about Early's plan involving beating up a shepherd. "That ain't a shepherd," comes the reply. Another little tip of the hat to Buck's past. Into the medbay, and some twisted logic from Early as he talks about how doctors and surgeons should be injured or amputees before they get to work on patients. The cargo bay, where Early speaks of his love of the design of the Firefly, again instilling the idea that this ship is underloved and very much a wonderful feat of technology against everything else. And it's here that Simon attempts to make his move, but this isn't his moment yet. As Early stops him with his finely crafted pistol to his face. Shuttle 2 is empty, so on to Shuttle 1 and Inara. And while Early may be well versed in companion tactics, she does get a read on the man and is pistol whipped for her efforts. Locked in. But now the party is over, and Early wants his prize. On the bridge, Early uses the intercom to call out to River, waking up Zoe and Wash, and Mal starts to come round too. Jane, who loves a fight, still fast asleep like a baby. But it worked. River replies. She's not on the ship though. They didn't want her there, so she melted into Serenity. Early, just like every one of us at this point, is a little confused. But he makes his play. He just wants River, but River knows things. She knows his name, Jubal Early. She knows his mother, his dog, his past. She knows everything. While this is a very quirky but pretty cool conversation that's all going on throughout this part of the episode, River's also talking to the crew individually. She talks Kaylee into cutting her bonds and unlocking the bunk doors. And while Zoe and Wash are spoiling for a fight, River says Early is stronger and faster than even Zoe, so that's a no-go. But River needs Mal for her plan. And while he's just as eager to go toe-to-toe with our bounty hunter, that's not going to work this time. Now, there is a scene in Serenity, the film, that always just gets me, and there's a moment in this episode that, at least it feels to me, it's setting that up. As River's talking to Early and she cuts Serenity's power, and as the whole ship plunges into darkness, we get a shot on the bridge with Early, and off to the right, down the corridor, bathed in the last remaining light before it dims, is Mal, almost angelic. Our hero skulks round the corner before Early can see him. But that shot just stood out to me. Mal ready to take back what's his, but using the difference in the light and the dark. The darkness represents Early's control of the situation, how he's got everything planned, except this one little area of bright light that bathes Mal. Whereas in reality, the situation is flipped, because in the darkness, River is now in charge. And I can't believe we've gotten this far into one of my Firefly reviews without saying how good the script is. But you probably know that by now, so I won't say it. But at this point, River is just coming out with all of Early's secrets, and he's starting to panic. She clearly knows things that she shouldn't, and then River gives her location away. She knows she's dangerous, and she doesn't want to hurt those around her, her family on Serenity. I'll be your bounty, Jubal Early. River's on his ship, and Simon makes his move. Takes a bullet in the leg for his trouble. Following Early's twisted logic, I guess that makes he's now qualified to be the doctor he claims. Anyway, Early makes his way back to the airlock, and his ship. But Simon isn't done. Again he makes a move, but he's knocked back. This time the ruckus wakes Jane, who grabs the curtain from his gun locker. The guns aren't locked, by the way, they're just on show. Pulls it over him and rolls over and goes to sleep. Jane's useless in this moment. Sounds a bit like Jane, really. But Early manages to get away, quite easily, to be fair. And walking over the hull of Serenity, he revels in his victory, as Mal pops up behind him and throws him off the hull. Early clips the side of his own ship and spirals out into the blackness, an object in space. River descends from Early's ship. Permission to come aboard. Permission granted. And with the crew safe once again, Zoe struggles but manages to stitch Simon's wound as Mal and Inara are caught in the medbay door. He sees the bleeding lip and touches her face to get a better look. Inara pulls away, making a hasty retreat. Jane complains to Buck about missing all the action as they do some weights, and on the other side of the cargo bay, Kaylee and River are playing jacks. It's just a case of mathematics, as River takes her turn. And the final shot of this show is of Jubal Early, floating in space. Well, here I am, resigned to his fate. On balance, I think this episode is a great way to end the 14 episode run. With the focus on River, we get more of what our heroes think, little nods to previous episodes, and some big moments, like Jane's betrayal, River constantly grabbing weapons, Mal's rescue, and that opening and closing shots of the crew spending time together in one way or another, and the strength of their bond really shows the love that's in this ship. It is a bold choice to focus on a completely new character for the season finale, and especially one that is out to break up the crew. But that threat of people coming for River, and by extension Simon, has been a reoccurring thread throughout this entire run. But this episode once again shows the strength of the writing and the cast, because not only does it work, but it serves to show how strong this entire series is. Despite the problems that are thrown at them, they will work together to make it right. River felt that she had no place on Serenity, but this is her family. And that family doesn't give up. And they will always look after their own. These bonds have been forged over the show, are very tough to break. There is still a lot of unanswered questions. What was it that the Blue Hands did to River? What's the deal with Buck? Will Zoe and Wash ever have kids? Is Mal able to overcome his fear of failure and tell Inara he loves her? And will Kaylee ever get laid? Some of these we'll never get answers to. But there are some that we will. Next week with Serenity the movie. I've had an absolute blast doing these reviews, and I hope that you've enjoyed them too. I know they get a little bit long, but I just love talking about this show. In my mind, it really is a perfect moment. And whatever the future brings, and however Disney want to mess with it down the line, they will never take this show from me. Now, it's been a hell of a week for me here. And content has been a little bit patchy, which is regrettable, but sadly it's been unavoidable, as I've had to deal with some other stuff in real life. But do stay tuned to the channel for more movie reviews, more game reviews, lots of news videos. I do have one for Tom Clancy's Without Remorse, which is the new film starring Michael B. Jordan. That's going to be dropping soon, maybe over the weekend. And then, of course, next week we have Serenity, next Wednesday. The plan after Serenity is to review both seasons of Dollhouse. This is another Joss Whedon show. In a similar format to what we've done with Firefly, a new review each week. I don't really know what day it will be yet. Keep an eye out for that if you like these reviews. Dollhouse is a very interesting show. It's quite a few years on from Firefly, and some of the cast do pop up as certain characters at times. I also have the Todd Plays Games channel, which is a Let's Play sort of video on demand of all the Twitch streams that I do. At the moment, we're working through the classic point-and-click adventure Broken Sword Shadow of the Templars and Divinity Original Sin, which is what I'm streaming on Twitch right now, if you want to jump in. So head over to Twitch and drop a follow, or whatever they call it, over there. It all helps. I am getting back onto that content train. As I say, it's been a week. But thank you very much for the amazing support. And to everybody who's watched these reviews in this series, I hope that you have enjoyed them. If you have, please sub to the channels. Hopefully there's something on either channel and Twitch for everybody. And it's only going to grow and get more and more. I'm also interested to see what you guys would like me to cover down the line. After Dollhouse, I don't know what we're going to do. Dollhouse is, I think, 20 episodes all in all. And we'll see how that goes. But if there's anything that you'd like me to watch and talk about in the meantime, drop a comment, let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.